Yeah. All right. Big up, everyone. Let's get ready for a fantastic show. Yeah. All right. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. Look at that. I could tell time by looking at a pattern. Excellent. Right, so let's see. Where is my fantastic thing switch over? Here we go. Welcome to Betterment Broadcast. This is show 119. That means that's 119 times we've tried to help black people help black people. Isn't that great? Fantastic. Yeah. All right. So we start with the freestyle statements that will help you navigate through this world when you try to be productive and help black people. And that is, unfortunately, black people are collectively inadequate. Collectively, black people have no friends. A constructive black man with constructive black woman makes a constructive black family. There you go. Freestyle statements that will help you when you need to actually try to reach out and keep on your square and do constructive things with black people, because it keeps reminding you that unfortunately, we haven't seemed to master the art of working as a team yet, and also collectively black people have no friends. But as you know, constructive black man with constructive black woman makes a constructive black family. There we go. Now, I'm going to throw out the link today. We also invite brothers and sisters to jump on. And when we do, please don't forget we are practicing the 4D values, which are discipline, dedication, dignity, and discernment. If you can use these 4D values, it makes trying to help black people very easier. It's not really, is it very easier? Much easier. There you go. All right. Try to use derogative language, please. We don't really, only if we're quoting like historical stuff, but generally when it comes to communication, try to use descriptive language if possible. So what is Black Betterment? I hear you say, well, it's black people helping black people on black issues for betterment. That's right. That's what Black Betterment is. Never forget, it's a lifestyle. So we are practicing the lifestyle of Black Betterment. Very important. Remember that. It's very helpful to know that. Right. We're going to show some videos. It's not ours. So we're going to go by the Copyright Act of 1976, Section 107, apparently. So yeah, but we've blackified the videos so they've become more branded with the Black Betterment Broadcast, just so it looks like it's part of the show with it. But we've taken videos from other places as case study. Yeah. Please, if you feel free, follow the Black Betterment Broadcast Building Instagram. I'm going to put the link in the thing as I always do. And one day I'm going to promote it much better, but not today. So anyway, if you think you can, just jump in there and follow it. Will be fantastic. Good. Yeah. So what is this week's show about? Well, this week's show is about, do black people long to be subservient to non-black people? Very important thing. Do we see that behavior? There's a scene of some he's now known as the King of England. That's King Charles. I want to say it's King Charles. That's what we call him now. And I believe he was in some kind of hospital maybe, and there was a lady, don't know if she's of African or Caribbean descent, but she's a sister, no doubt. And I think she was so overwhelmed that she started crawling on the floor and screaming and this kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know if that's appropriate, but we can unpack that. We have a look at it and then break it down. And then we go to part 2 of, can knowledge of racial whitening be used to motivate black love? Some good videos about that. Because last week we covered racial whitening, what it was, and how we can use the concept to motivate black love and black economics and stuff. And we'll unpack that as well today. Hopefully we can talk about that. Had a great show last week. Yes, we did. So let's go to the first video. First video we have. Let's see if we can find I think it's this one. Let's see, shall we? So let's see if we can hear the sister go completely out of her mind for there's the video of the king going into the nursing home or something like that. He's now walking, talking to people. Let's see if I can. There we go. So he's talking to other people.
We arrived at like 10:30, and then we just started wrapping up. Yeah, we had some sandwiches.
Lovely snacks.
You're very good.
Thank you.
I'm very good. Very good. You're very good.
Oh, very creative.
Thank you.
Oh, very cool. This one's young English.
Our sixth formers brought them in.
Skip all this. So he's walking, and now he's going to some other place. I don't know if it's a school, whatever. He's just walking around. Everyone's quite content. Now, there we go. Now he's entered. I assume it's a nursing place. Is that eggs on the table? You know what? It might. You know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is the canteen. Is it? I think. Shame on me. I think it's the canteen. I said nurse. Did I say that? Yeah. It might be a canteen. Okay, so maybe they're in some kind of school. Maybe I should have done some research. Maybe let's have a listen, see what happens now.
And these lovely people.
So as you can see, if you're in there, there's a sister to the far right. He's getting very, very, wee when she sees him. I think everyone's aware now. The camera zoomed in and she's jumping up and down like Superman rebels. I think she's trying to get a phone, maybe take a picture for her family, maybe in the West Indies, maybe here, maybe in Africa. We don't know, but she wants to definitely remember this day. Now she's gone to her knees. This is where it kind of gets a bit, a bit extreme. She's gone to her knees. She's obviously best pleased to see the king. And I think the women around her say, maybe you shouldn't be on your knees, but I think she's too taken away by the moment. Okay, now now she's crawling on her knees. And now she's screaming because the King of England. Yeah, she can't contain herself. Everyone's kind of moving away from it. And she's thanking him for touching her. Okay. Now, what's interesting, we were talking a few weeks ago about being on cold and this kind of stuff, and also how the Queen, his mother, who passed away a few months back, she was very on cold in the sense of very, very polite, very kind woman, in front of the media, very good skill to have. But what she did that was very on cold. She never actually, acknowledged slavery or any kind of apology. And that was very helpful to the UK public, very helpful to the UK government. And what I'm saying is, if people of African descent remember that the royal family benefited tremendously from the colonization and enslavement of Black people, and they never really acknowledge it because, to acknowledge it would have to acknowledge maybe some kind of not repercussion, but reparation, something like this. So they tend to not talk about it. So just letting you know, that before you treat the royal family like a rock star, now that they're on code in how they behave, it's probably best that we be on code and we don't start, groveling on our feet and screaming and this kind of stuff. I don't think it's probably the best, especially the history. But what do I know? Well, you guys can let me know what you think about such behaviors. Now, speaking of off code and this kind of, I came across another video of a very nice spoken sister. There's a pattern that's happening. It's happened for years, but we notice it when it comes to like not far right, but right-leaning media stations from the UK and Australia. Australia's one like that, and hiring Black sisters and brothers, especially from the continent as well, to talk disparagingly against other Black people, especially Black people who might question racist behavior from maybe the royal family, the government, whatever. They tend to get a Black sister, a brother to jump on. And here's something that came out 8 days ago. I didn't catch it, but I'll catch it recently. Let's have a listen. So this, if you were aware, Sister Miss Fulani is from Sister Space, I believe it's called. She was talking to one of the royal family representations, the best friend of the Queen or something. And I think some of the questioning came because it's very racist and very very uncomfortable. And I think she complained about it. And I think the media didn't really appreciate that. So here's what followed. So we're talking about off-code behavior and stuff.
Been waiting for, and it is of course the Common Sense Commentator of the Year award, and this goes to Esther Kraku. Esther, this is my special award for you. This is for being the smartest person in the room. So
you always got to try to take the dog whistle. So basically got a sister on from Esther Kraku, I think West African lady. I think she's been on TV a few times, similar kind of stations. And he started by giving her an award for having common sense. So let's see what the common sense is.
In your case, that's the entire British Isles, and for cutting through the woke insanity to give us.
So remember when I use this woke insanity, remember woke was a historical word that came from being aware of the past injustices and trying to fight against it. Now they've kind of used it to represent, I guess, feminist and LGBT kind of agendas that's also in sectioned with black issues, and they just call it now woke, and it's now a derogative term. They're trying to make a derogative term, and that's why they use the term woke. Little dog whistle technique there. Speaking of, before I move on, something you have to watch as well. We're going to cover as well is in the in England football matches stuff. They're getting on their knees, and in America that there were Colin Kaepernick. He went on his knees in the anthem to highlight the murders of black men and black people, but generally black men by the state in America. But now I noticed that in England they're doing the same kind of on the knees gesture, but it represents inclusion. You see, for all, inclusion for all, which is this was spared by, I guess, LGBT people not being able to practice homosexuality publicly in Qatar, and maybe some other issues which I haven't really pinpointed yet. What I'm saying, it's interesting how black people be very aware of that things that start for very particular black needs then become the needs of all people. And this woke, I'm saying it because this woke idea now is now being used. This derogative term of wokeism is taking this traditionally black word and making it now a derogative term. So be aware of that. All right, where are we? Let's press play and see what this lady's saying.
Sensible opinions here every single Thursday night. I wish the rest of Britain could benefit from you the way we have. So thank you so much. That's my special award for you, Esther.
Oh, thank you very much.
So, once again, with the pondering, really bigging up the black woman who's going to talk bad against other black people.
My pleasure. Now, listen, we talked the other day about this Ngozi Fulani,
So watch the way people mention your name.
The owner of Sister Space, the charity. We had Lady Susan Hussey, who was accused of racism and basically thrown under the carriages by the royal family. Tell us what the latest is on her, Esther.
So now it has been.
So what they've got is they'll get a black woman to talk about negative aspects that they assume is happening around the sister. Very old technique. Be wary of if you ever be used for this. I would like to think the sister doesn't know, but something tells me she does, but who knows?
Revealed that Sister Space is under a preliminary investigation because apparently they want to, there have been allegations that the charity has misused a lot of the funds that were given to it.
So once again, there's a space set up for black women to find, to have, has been abused. It recognized there was a need and they jumped to it. They don't really want to tackle that now. They're talking about apparently funds that's been misused, and this is the angle they want to do. Very, very interesting technique they're doing.
We know that they filed their accounts almost like over 2 months late.
So now they filed their accounts 2 months late. This is now what you're saying, newsworthy. Okay, cool.
Later than you're supposed to.
Later than you're supposed to.
And it's just a preliminary investigation.
So once again, nothing really there, but this is now the angle they want to attack the sister on, because they weren't best pleased that that she was a victim of harsh racial questioning. But
it does kind of raise questions about how the royal family and the palace handled this issue with Ngozi Fulani, who's
how I don't see how you can conflate the two or mix the two about Sister Space and she was you've got this alleged problem with finance allegedly. And how it's connected to the royal family trying to distance themselves from the racist behavior.
Her real name is Marlene Headley. I'd like to.
Okay, let's take that back. So now what she's done is she said her real name. His
real name is Marlene Headley.
So this is another very disrespectful thing that people do. It happened to Muhammad Ali when he tried to change his name. You don't respect the non-European name that a person takes for themselves, and you keep highlighting it. Very disrespectful.
I'd like to point out she's actually a woman of Barbadian origin.
Okay, what's that got to do with anything?
That grew up in East London. She is not, as many would assume, an actual West African woman, even though.
So once again, this is very interesting. Like you take a person. So if a Chinese person is born in America, they're no longer Chinese. This kind of philosophy that people want to do. But we're going to tackle sisters and brothers from Africa who behave this way, because there is a way to tackle this.
So she somehow cosplays as a West
cosplay, very, very condescending
African woman of miscellaneous heritage. Anyway,
so you can clearly see the patterns of black brothers and sisters that that this kind of Sky News Australia and GB, whatever it's called in England News, and all the other stations all around the world. But it's not a unique technique, but it's I guess the easygoing easygoing technique they use.
It does draw into question how they handled this, because if it is revealed that she doesn't have the cleanest track record with regards to her charity and its operations and how sort of the funding is used, that begs the question: were they right to just throw Lady Hussey under the bus?
What does that mean? So what you're saying is, let's go with that narrative. Let's say that this lady, Sister Fulani, has made either mistakes with finance or she deliberately did it. Does that mean that because of that she's then worthy to be racially profiled and racially questioned about her origin, this kind of stuff? See, it doesn't really make sense that way, but maybe that's the logic of the anti-black racist. Who knows? Let's see.
Without doing a proper investigation and just effectively labeling her a callous racist for.
Once again, it's not determined. Your racial practices is not determined by the history of the person you're mistreating. Yeah, the person could have spent their life stealing mangoes, from corner shops. It wouldn't matter. You still can't racially mistreat them. You see, this is the thing. Maybe some people, they believe that if you break the law somehow, that makes you worthy of racism. Who knows?
For inquiring about Ngozi Fulani's origins, and I find it really disappointing as well, because I just thought, after 6 decades of service to the royal family, she would have been treated better with at least the courtesy of a proper investigation, not just being jettisoned off into the distance.
Now, you'll have to help me out here, Esther, but is being your family from Africa, is being Caribbean but pretending to be African, is that cultural appropriation? Do you
see what's happening there now? This European gentleman is saying, Australian European. I'm sure he'll be. I don't know if that's appropriation there, but he is trying to say that if a Caribbean has a West African identity, then is this appropriation? Trying to, I guess, a division tactic. It's not really new, but necessary.
You think that's the kind of thing that the woke world would get upset?
The woke world, yeah. So we see what's happening there.
That's about.
I mean, it's not. We wouldn't really consider it cultural appropriation, but I'm not sure if you've had many interactions with Africans. We're probably the hardest people to offend, so we don't take things that personally. It's just very weird, because these would be the same people that would have a problem with Adele wearing Bantu knots, even though she grew up in Tottenham with a large Caribbean diaspora. It's just it's.
So obviously, I was trying to defend the European. You see a consistent behavior pattern.
It just draws into question why she would effectively cosplay as a West African woman. Because
cosplay as a West African, interesting.
There's nothing very legitimate or authentic about what she's doing. Ngozi Fulani is not a real name. I'm not sure if many of your viewers know this. Ngozi is an Igbo name, and Fulani is actually a tribe. And we don't tend to pair first names with tribes. It's not something that we do sort of across West Africa. So we.
You know, we say we. The way you're talking, you're kind of taking yourself out of that kind of we kind of category.
I knew a lot of Ghanaians and Nigerians were very, very curious, because that's something we've never heard before. But we wouldn't call it cultural appropriation. We just think if you're going to kind of embrace that kind of culture, do it respectfully. The outfit she was wearing to the royal palace wasn't even actual traditional attire. It was some sort of leopard print,
some sort of made up thing
with a weird scarf and massive. Yeah, it was.
So once again, you're seeing the patterns, and we have a way of dealing with this. We'll break that down soon.
It just wasn't anything culturally relevant to
now, I just want to quickly, before we go, Esther, I just want to ask you very quickly 2 things. Boris Johnson is now earning £1 million for doing the speaking circuit job, if you can get it. And Nigel Farage has come out and said that he thinks the Conservatives should be apologising for the way they've run the country.
I mean, on the Boris point, yes, it's a very nice.
I believe that there, Sister Esther Karuki. This is going to post a link now for people who wish to jump in. What I'm going to do, I'm going to break down something. Before we get to the second part. So we just showed off-code behavior of the 2 different nature. One was a woman being very starstruck and just groveling on her knees to the royal family, and the other one was a sister who deliberately probably goes onto European stations to undermine black progress and undermine black cases. I think we click on that. Da-dee-da-dee-da. Right. So what do I get? So. What talking tactics? So one thing I've noticed is you're always going to get a stream of people from all over the planet who black people that is, who, you know, some will be unsynchronized, some will be synchronized. And I think the way how I deal with things is I talk about when it comes to people referencing, just to not continue with any kind of like division and stuff like that, is I try to make a distinction between the South African and the Glad African. And what I mean by that is this. It's a picture I paint where it's like historically there were South Africans, and those South Africans were very tribalistic. They didn't like people from other places, other tribes, and whenever they saw them, they were sad. And this sadness made them actually potentially sell them into slavery, unfortunately, right? And then there's the Glad Africans. The Glad Africans are the ones who enjoyed seeing other tribes, other black people, other Africans, and they got on with them and they tried to do constructive things. Now, whenever the people in the diaspora is trying to connect with brothers and sisters on the motherland, always remember that the two dynamics, the South African and the Glad African. Whenever you come across with the South African, don't let it trick you to think that all Africans are that like such, right? And we can say that we are here to talk to the Glad Africans, not the South Africans, right? And people go, well, how can you tell? If you're constantly trying to reach out and be constructive while someone is just constantly beating down everything you're doing and trying to undermine you, and they're on the continent, you can say, well, that's a South African. You say that's a very sad person, and there's some sadness in their life they need to deal with. But we're trying to deal with the Glad Africans, and that's how it was. So these are tactics I use when I go into forums and you find people of African descent who might be similar to the system we just saw, who are just constantly trying to nick and pick and separate. We make a distinction between the South African and the Glad African. That's right. Little talking tactic there. Now we're going to welcome brother IC3 to the panel. Welcome, brother IC3. How's it going?
Welcome.
Excellent.
Black Betterment building. Black Betterment. Yes.
So we're now going to go to part 2 of the show. Any comments on part 1? But by all means, you're here, so you can see while I try to pin the link. Let me see if I can pin the link while you. Any questions on anything we just saw there, Brother IC3?
Yeah. I was thinking about the connection between the royal family being, or representative of the royal household being represented as possibly racist or racist behavior. Mm-hmm. And then the discussion about how there seems to be flaws in the financing or accounting of the charity. Yeah. So I'm saying that there is a connection because it's the charity's management of money is being called into question. Yeah. And it links up with the royal question about the royal household's racism, in the fact that the money has the royal faces on it. You know what I mean? It's the king's face is on the money. And, you know, the VAT and taxation is all going to the royal, you know, it's got the royal Her Majesty's or His Majesty's inland revenue. So there's a direct link, even though it may appear to be abstract.
There you go. Interesting thing there. Okay, so family, I've pinned the link of the show in the thing. If you wish to join, should be at the top. Just click and you can come through and meet me and myself, Rap Raven, Brother IC3. We're now going to move to part 2, which is part 2, which is also part 2 of the topic that started last week. How can knowledge of racial whitening be used to motivate black love? Now, what we're going to do, I've found some clips of a film called, I think it's called, what was the name? Rabbit something. I'm a bad guy. I should remember the name right. But either way, it's got Kenneth Branagh in it. He's like a famous UK actor. And basically, we're going to watch a clip of they're trying to, like I told you, with people who they determine who are black or Aboriginal, this kind of stuff, they always see them as a problem. So that you have many historical Europeans who move to these kind of lands, but they'll see the inhabitants of the lands problematic. And I was thinking, what is to be done with these Aboriginal people, these black people? So here's what they did in Australia. And we're going to have this little clip that they made a film about. You should try watching it. I'm sure it'll be interesting to watch. So this is a 4-minute clip. Rewind. So it says, Western Australia, 1931. For 100 years, the Aboriginal peoples have resisted the invasion of their lands by white settlers. now a special law, the Aboriginals Act, controls their lives in every detail. So it's a law they put in to control the Aborigines, and it's down to every pinpoint, but it also has an ultimate conclusion of what they want to do to the Aborigines. Remember, keep in mind that the Tasmanians have already been, I don't know by this point if they've been extinct or they're about to be extinct. So Tasmania is a small island to the left of Australia, bottom left, and all the people there who was known as Tasmanians, they were genocide and wiped out. Okay, what's this? Mr. A.O. Neville, the Chief Protector of the Aboriginals, that must be the European received, I assume as Karen Branner, is the legal guardian of every Aboriginal in the state of Western Australia. So for Western Australia, he's responsible for all of them, apparently. He has the power to remove any half-caste child from their family, from anywhere within the state. So that means when Aborigines had children with the Europeans, he had the right to just remove them at will, and that was his kind of job. All right, let's see. Area back in 30s. Looks like he's writing kind of scripts or whatever for laws. Commission script.
Next batch.
Jim Crow laws, isn't it?
Yep.
There's 2 applications for Section 63 exemptions. The police reports are there. William Harris is applying for permission to marry. Oh, she's half-caste also.
And Mary Wilson's applying for permission to visit her child at Moore River.
So what the woman's saying is there's the women in Australia, the Aboriginal, well, the half-caste, they define as half-caste. I mean, they've got one Aboriginal parent, one European parent. They're asking permission to get married. I don't know if it's to each other or to a white person, probably to each other, I'm sure, I don't know. And I have no idea. And also to one, her children's been taken away and she wants permission to see her child.
She's quite agitated. Oh, and Gladys Phillips has written for permission to buy some new shoes.
She had a new pair a year ago. No, this report from Constable Riggs about the 3 little half-caste girls at the Jigalong Fence Depot, Molly, Gracie and Daisy. The youngest is of particular concern. She's promised to a full blood. I'm authorizing their removal. They're to be taken to Moore River as soon as possible.
I think what he said there's girls, I could be wrong, and they've escaped or something, and I think they're saying that one of them might be courting or trying to court a actual Aboriginal person, what they call full blood, and then this is problematic because he's got a particular a plan for the black Aboriginal, which they're revealing the next.
Owen Miss Thomas, if you could check that the rate for police transportation is still, I believe, 8 pence per mile.
Yes, Mr. Neville.
Thank you.
As you know, every Aborigine born in this state comes under my control. Notice, if you will, the half-caste child. And there are ever-increasing numbers of them. Now, what is to happen to them? Are we to allow the creation of an unwanted third race? Should the coloureds be encouraged to go back to the black? Or should they be advanced to white status and be absorbed in the white population? Now, time and again, I am asked by some white man, if I marry this coloured person, will our children be black? And as Chief Protector of Aborigines, it is my responsibility to accept or reject those marriages. Here is the answer. 3 generations. Half-blood grandmother, quadroon daughter, octoroon grandson. Now, as you can see, in the 3rd generation, or 3rd cross, no trace of native origin is apparent. The continuing infiltration of white blood finally stamps out the black color. The Aboriginal has simply been bred out. Now, we come to We come to the Moore River Native Settlement. Ladies, most of you are familiar with our work here, the training of domestic servants and farm laborers. I would like to thank you for your continuing support. Hundreds of half-caste children have been gathered up and brought here to be given the benefit of everything our culture has to offer. For if we are to fit and train such children for the future, they cannot be left as they are. And in spite of himself, the native must be helped.
Tracker followed them to this riverbank, but lost the tracks in the water about a week ago. There's been no sign of them since.
3 little half-castes. We're talking quite a few man-hours here. Who's going to pay for it?
Well, there's very little money in my departmental budget. I'm hoping that if your men can in some way combine this with their regular duties...
We'll be able to handle all the notifications, posting all the police stations, farms, etc.
We'll provide a description.
A bit of...
Oh, we're doing, guys, if those just joining, we're watching a film starring Kenneth Branagh. I think it's something over the rabbit fence. I can't remember the name because I'm very lazy, sorry. But it's basically about racial whitening and how the Australian Europeans wanted to deal with what they call the Aboriginal problem of what to do with the people who are originally in the land that they've invaded. And one of the solutions was encourage them to have children with Europeans. And then they said that obviously, unfortunately, we can't classify those children as white, but after 2 or 3 generations, we can. And now they're looking for 3 runaway Aboriginal, what they call half-castes, I think, because they fear that they might actually start going back into having children with what they call the Aborigines, the full-blood Aborigines, what they call them.
My men have to make trips outside of their duties, and I'm afraid it'll have to be an impost on your department, Mr.
If your men are out on other jobs at the same time, Inspector, there would be no extra expense.
I'll concede that, Mr. Neville.
And it is the job of every one of your men in their role as local protectors.
My men will do their jobs, Mr. Neville. Now, a week ago, you said.
Yes. I do not expect you to understand what I am trying to do for these people, but I will not have my plans put into jeopardy. People fail to understand that the problem of half-castes is not simply going to go away. It is not dealt with now. It will fester for years to come. These children are that problem. Please explain exactly what happened.
I don't know how they did it, but we lost them. And last one out there, Moody was with them, and we lost them. They're making right fools of us.
They are indeed, Inspector, and the cost is more than to just our pride. The reputation of this department is beginning to suffer.
I can assure you that my men have better things to do than chase your charges all around the country. They're coming into very rough terrain. Once they're much past Meekatharra, I can't risk any of my men.
I agree. We must find them before they get into the real desert country. So, this is what we're going to do. You get your man up there. Mudu can join him. Well up the fence, around here. Far enough up so that we know we cannot possibly miss them. And I want them to stay there. They can set up camp and wait.
Costly?
We'll just have to bear it. Their lives may be at stake. And Inspector, I understand the mother of one of the girls has gone to Wiluna. The children are headed into that country. I want the word spread. Let's see what that does. Lack the funds to pursue the missing half-caste girls, Molly and Daisy. I would ask to be kept informed of their whereabouts so that at some future date...
See the importance of maps?
Yeah, I see you put it there, the importance of maps.
They may indeed be recovered. We face an uphill battle with these people, especially the bush natives, who have to be protected against themselves.
Very, very important quote there, protect from themselves.
If they would only understand what we are trying to do for them. Yours, etc. Thank you.
I'll end it there. So yeah, so what we're showing there, we're showing we spoke last week about the concept of racial whitening, why it came about, how it was used to destroy black biology, culture, and economics, and how, despite it not being promoted directly, or some say it still is, but directly, how this concept could actually still be affecting the black community today in different lands, and that is by just giving away, your resources, your biology, whether it is to non-black people. It's hard to actually set up an industry or a camp because you're not really forming a foundation with your own people group. And
Could you show?
go ahead.
Could you show your? I'd like to see how your black belt, brown belt, yellow belt relates to the race codes.
There we go. Right.
Give us
It's a recap.
Right.
So
white belt, yellow belt. Go on.
So family, we a few few months back, we were trying to talk about who, who should be representing black people publicly, and what when people try to do constructive things for black people, how can we tell a success rate, like almost like a division, of something to achieve. So we came up with a star system. This is what we were talking about. And so if you wanted to practice black betterment, you get a star system to see how accurate, how efficient you are. So we have a white star, and that is someone who openly confesses to black people or the world you want to be a custodian, or you agree to the code of custodians. So we'll use the term custodians, right? So that means I want to be a custodian and I agree to the black betterment. So, but just by saying that, we go, okay, you start off as a white star, because many people won't be able to do that, because many people are intimidated, are shy to want to try to be something of a beneficial to black people. And then we say, okay, when you join an institution or collective idea that is actively dedicated to black betterment, then you get your yellow star. You then move up from your white star of confession to yellow star of doing and joining, right? So when you've joined an institution or a collective idea that is actively dedicated to black betterment and you're part of it, yeah, you do it. And also we said that because some people might not be able to join, but what they can do is if you consistently fund an institution or a creative idea that is dedicated to black betterment. So by doing that, you can say you have become a yellow star by doing these two things. Now, how do you get a brown star here, you say? We were saying that within an institution or collective idea, you demonstrate great leadership or achievement. So that means in these things you're joining or things you're doing, you actually make some ground. You go through the organization and you become something of merit. You do some kind of activity at a high efficient level to the point where you're awarded the brown star. Then the final and most sought after star is the black star. This means you have created you lead within an institution or a creative idea that is actively dedicated to black betterment. So you this is where you either create something, as a big institution yourself, and you need a black star for that, or you lead within an institution a creative idea. So within an institution, you actually become of a leadership figure. And this way, what we're saying is, by being a black star, we know that this person is doing certain things that is beneficial to black people, and we can hold them up to the people and say, "Look at this black star code of custodian, or custodian." Sorry. So this is the kind of thing that we were talking about a few weeks back, I would say, just as if we wanted to see it.
Right now, so I like this star system because I'm very interested in codification. I see that's the way forward. Now these stars are black betterment stars, are grades for individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Now, could they be applied to organizations?
Well, yeah, I mean that's something we can unpack now. Like, I guess this is the individual merit, but I guess we have to think, okay, what would make a white star organization like is there the doing and the achieving? Is that what we'll be accessing? So there's people who start out there doing, but maybe when something is achieved at a high level, you can give them a star, or maybe they can only actually start doing once they've achieved a certain star, or maybe I don't know, like by saying they're a certain star, it means they have, I don't know, this is something we have to unpack. I have some certain kind of.
Got you thinking, haven't I?
Yeah,
because I was thinking, right? I think you can have your hotel can be graded. You can have a 5-star hotel, 2-star, 3-star
yeah,
hotel,
yeah.
and the gradings are very important in the hotel business.
It is.
So imagine if you had a similar institution that was organized in grading institutions, grading businesses.
Right.
So they have an inspector go around and say, "Oh, the family bakery represents a Caribbean bakery or whatever, or shop," and they say, "Oh, we'd like to talk to you about your shop." So you have the inspectors come round, the Black Betterment inspectors, Black Betterment Inspectorate. So they come round and they say, "Oh, like we'd like to investigate your your business. Would you, first of all, would you say this is a black business?" And they get a tick. Okay. And what would you say? What's the purposes? So to be graded, you have to be a black betterment business. So would you say classify your business as a black betterment business? Yes or no? Okay, yes. So let's then. Would you like to be part of the grading system? We'd like to assess your business for Black Betterment, as we are a newly funded or founded Black Betterment inspection or agency. And then you apply these stars, and then you also publish a monthly magazine about the black businesses that have joined the Black Betterment Collective, and you'll be writing reports on the business and giving it stars. So I think the concept of the stars, Black Betterment grades and stars applied to individuals is interesting, but I think the real power will come if you start grading businesses, black businesses, in terms of black betterment, in terms
Well,
of it could be share ownership, so on. If it's a black business, yes, and then it's only owned by white people with only black people working there, what's going on there? Do you get the
right.
point?
So what we can say is, if you have industry, we can say, if there's an industry set up to help black people, right, but it's run by non-black people, then we can say that's a white star, meaning it's we can say, oh, so I guess the a lot of the stuff that's set up back in the old days in America would have been white star business, right? But you can say that things like being run by black people might make it a yellow star. Only having black people in the organization might make it a brown star. And then you might have some things like the people who are running it, might be their institution, whatever. Who are they married to? If they're married to non-black people, that means that those people might inherit if they pass away. So then that means we can't ever qualify for a black star, because one of the fears is that we're in the community is you might start to support a black industry, push up there, and then the person dies, and then it gets inherited by a non-black person, and then sells it to someone else, right? So it's like maybe these things could be ways of getting your star rating up to a black. You see, maybe ideas. Any ideas in the group? Oh, Brother IC3 saying, why don't we have a star system for black businesses? We're saying, if we were to do one for a black business, what could it be? What could the stars represent?
Can I give you I had a meeting today in Tottenham, and we were discussing this kind of thing. And anyway, then the other person started talking about going for they went for dinner at a restaurant. I've never been there, but I've heard about it from quite a few people that it's a very stunning restaurant. It's a restaurant called Shaka Zulu in Camden Town. Has anybody heard of that restaurant?
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. Well, apparently, the person who I was talking to today said that they ate there, and a dinner for two cost them about £150.
Oh wow.
Okay. So, and they were talking about how the wonderful African experience at the Shaka Zulu restaurant in Camden Town. And I'd heard about this before for quite a while, and this person was trying to impress me of how African this restaurant was, and that and they were showing me pictures of all these African figures. They got about 10-foot African figures, and I said, "Wow, look how many figures they have there. There must be a mold." He says, "No, all those figures are carved out of wood, real 10-foot high." And I thought, "Wow, this is really expensive." And I only hear good news coming about. I only hear good news about Shaka Zulu restaurant in Camden Town. So I thought, wow, and this is the second time you're telling me about this restaurant, and the last time was a few years ago. And I've heard a few other people said about it, and I thought to myself, wow, for this restaurant to be so impeccable and everything. And I said to him, "Do they have black people serving there?" And he said, "Yes, yes. People are very impressed by the African atmosphere." I said, "What is it makes you feel it's an African atmosphere?" He says, "Well, the music, the decor." He showed me pictures. It was really impressive. I said, "Wow." I thought this just seems too good based on my experience. My experience. I said, "You know what? Let me find out who owns that restaurant." So I was there. I said, "Wait a minute, give me a moment here. Let me just search company's house and so on." Just doing some searching. And lo and behold, it's directed by a white person. But apparently it's been taken over because there's been they had some financial difficulties. And then this white organization has taken over. Yeah. And that's the basic story, basically. So it's white. It's a white run. Is it a White Star organization? I don't think so. What did you say? White Star openly confess to black people of the world you want to be a custodian and agree to the code of custodians. Well, so if you have to apply that now to an institution, that would be White Star openly. The company openly confesses to black people of the world that this company wants to be a custodian and agree to the code of custodians. I don't think so.
Well, the thing is, with Black Betterment, it always has to be black people and black people. So once you have non-black people, it doesn't qualify for anything to do with black, and that's a very important fact because we're trying to fix the collective inadequacies. And one of the inadequate things, which is what this topic's about, is the subservient behavior, the behavior of always trying to look for others to fix it. And we also we're looking at just before the people came in, we're looking at behavioral patterns that doesn't work in black people's best interest. And so we looked at a video of in Australia, of a concept that they call racial whitening that was done to try to destroy Aborigines and have the offspring then one day become European looking fully. And we're saying that this is a similar thing we're doing today, but we're also including the fact that we're not having economics, we're not inheriting anything, and we're not second generation wealth things, whatever. So we're saying this seems to be a legacy of that behavior. So yeah, in order to rectify that within the actual lifestyle we practice is black people helping black people. So we eliminate any kind of like confusion or a hiccup of not actually being around black people while actually practicing black betterment. Welcome everyone.
Okay.
Welcome everyone. If you feel jump in if you want, there's a link in the thing. Jump in. Carry on, brother. IC3.
Right. So, looking at your star system, Black Betterment star grading system, and applying it to organizations, we could see that Shaka Zulu restaurant in Camden Town, which it's almost like I think it's a 5-star restaurant. Although its founders were black people, it does not qualify even for a White Star.
No, it wouldn't.
Is that correct?
No, it definitely wouldn't because the owners are not black, and once again, we don't have any control of what it does or doesn't do, and it doesn't have, yeah, it doesn't have any black interest in what it's doing. So
So
it
yeah,
wouldn't.
sorry. The reason I'm laughing is like this conversation I had today with these people, and they were just talking about the African experience of the Shaka Zulu restaurant in Camden Town. I can't believe it. It's like when you start applying this, grading system, it just blows things out of the water.
Yeah,
Just think, you go to the Camden Town, and you're getting the African experience. Just think of that. That's what they're selling. They're selling that that's what somebody was telling me today. You know, that people love the African experience of the restaurant. So I tell you what, if you are interested in applying your Black Betterment star system to organizations that profess to be African or black, and you're thinking of doing that as another aspect of your Black Betterment project, I'd love to help. So just
definitely,
let me know.
yeah, no, definitely, we can set up a show just about that, and we can have a back and forth and see if we can refine what we're doing. That sounds like a very cool idea. Very cool.
Yeah, because that sounds up my street. That's the kind of thing I like doing.
Welcome, family. We started today's show by saying, "Do black people long to be subservient to non-black people?" And we looked at a video of I think it was a cook who saw the King of England, King Charles, they call him now, and she started crawling on her knees and screaming and this kind of stuff. And we're saying, is that appropriate behavior? And then we also looked at a sister who was on some Australian Sky News report, who they seem to bring on for the sole purpose of undermining a sister called Miss Fulani, who they were there to defend the racist attack against Sister Fulani by the Queen's best friend, and they had that old technique of hiring a black woman to speak negatively against black women. So we're saying that this is a behavior that we need to watch. But once again, if we don't have our own institutions dedicated to black betterment, non-black institutions will always be able to pay black people to make fun of black people. Hence why you want to kind of get your institution game sorted. And then we looked at can knowledge of racial whitening be used to motivate black people? We looked at a scene from a film based in Australia where the man who came up with the plan to try to educate and train Aborigines to never be with Aborigines but to be with white people. So eventually, after 3 generations, what would be seen as a white person, and hopefully that would fix the issues they have with the Aborigines. And this was something we see in the Americas, and it's something that we kind of see in England and America from an optic standpoint, where there is a promotion of black people or affluent black people with non-black women. So we're tying it all in. Very interesting, and how this connects to lack of resources, lack of economics, and generally answers. Maybe one of the answers to the question is, why don't black people have that many dedicated institutions run and controlled for black people by black people? And we're seeing the legacy of why this might be. And then the question is what to do about it. And then I think Brother IC3 was suggestion we use a star system when it comes to black business to identify how effective the institution is at helping black people. So this is what we're at. But like I said, fam, if you was to jump in chat, just click and you can go. What we can do now is we've watched one video, so we're still on part. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking ahead. Like, so if you have a Black Betterment website, and that's Black Betterment grading of businesses. So just like you have stars for people, you have stars for businesses, and then you'd have people writing a report. So that's the beginning of an institution, isn't it? You're starting to grade. You have a website, dedicated website to Black Betterment, and you're featuring different businesses on there, and people can go to that website and read about different businesses and their Black Betterment level.
Mm.
I mean, that would be a great website. I would love to see something like that.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I hear that completely.
Yeah, and you just go to the website and you have a look and see which businesses or which restaurants are graded black star or brown star. Maybe there's no black star ones yet. Let's go to a brown star restaurant.
It's good concept there. Good concept. We can expand the star system for businesses. Very good idea, family. Now, what we're gonna do, we'll watch a few seconds of what happened to the black Argentinians. But I think African Sister did a small kind of piece on this. So this is connected to, can knowledge of racial whitening be used to motivate black love? Let's see.
Entirely economic output was dependent on.
This is actually an interesting thing we should watch anyway, but we'll do it another time.
Before slave
Rewind. Oh, this is called History Vile.
Afro-Argentines, as the black people in Argentina are popularly known, formed a significant part of the Argentine population in the 18th century. In 1778, according to a census by its Spanish colonial masters, black people made up 37% of the total population of the South American country. By 1857, 79 years later, the black population had dropped to 15%. Today, a greater population of Argentina is white. Only 5% of Argentina is black, the lowest of all Latin American countries. As a matter of fact, their numbers have reduced drastically that it would be near impossible to see a black Argentine in sports, journalism, politics, and so on. So, what led to the reduction and near eradication of the black population in Argentina? The history of Afro-Argentines dates back to the 16th century when black people, feet chained, were brought from their homelands in Africa to be traded as slaves in Argentina. At the time, Buenos Aires, the capital city of Argentina, had just been founded and trading was the main commercial activity. As the years went by, the numbers of slaves being traded in and out of Buenos Aires increased drastically. As of the 1600s, the slave trade industry had grown so much that about 70% of all trading in Buenos Aires involved importing slaves from Africa. It was only a matter of time before slave trading became a legalized trade in Argentina, extending far into the 1800s. Although the slave trade in Argentina ended in 1813, slavery itself lasted until 1853 before it was finally abolished. When one looks at Buenos Aires now, in its clothing of architectural and structural beauty, it is hard to imagine that it was once an ugly sight during the long years of the black slave trade and trafficking, which increased the black population in the colony. Data recorded in the 1778 census carried out in Argentina by the then Spanish colonial masters showed that about 30% of the people in Buenos Aires were black. By the time the slave trade was ended in the 19th century, black people accounted for 1/3 of the Argentine population, even though many of them were descended from slaves and some were still in slavery. Not only were the blacks a robust community, but they were also involved in and actively influenced the Argentine culture with their African ways. For instance, the popular tango musical style and dance, which was developed in Argentina, has its roots traced to the African country of Angola. The belief that black ancestry or descent does not exist in Argentina is expected from a country that claims so much whiteness. This belief sets a logical problem against the claims that the erasure of black history occurred in Argentina. After all, if black people never existed in the country, how could they have disappeared? As it appears, some are still ignorant of facts concerning the history of Afro-Argentines. Nevertheless, this ignorance does not invalidate the fact that a black community existed in Argentina but was erased around the early 20th century. Perhaps a better question would be, was the black account erased from Argentine history, or did Argentina erase its black people from history? One thing is certain, black people did not just vanish from the historical accounts of Argentina. They were written out of it. The real question to be asked then is, how? How was the whole racial population washed out of history? The history-loving mind is so curious that it seeks answers to this question. It is no surprise then that many have tried to give different answers regarding the disappearance of black populace in Argentina, some less satisfactory than others. Truly, the disappearance of the black population occurred in different ways. Few were circumstantial, but some were intentional. These ways are different, yet when combined, give a well-rounded explanation of how Argentina erased its black people from history. These combined methods were demonstrated acts under the umbrella of whitening. Whitening can simply be described as an act of reimagining a race towards whiteness. The rationale behind this act is that there exists some societal privileges that benefit white people compared to people of other races.
So something to note there that by identifying or closely identifying as white, or by trying to be white as much as you can, your life becomes better. Something you have to keep in mind.
This ideology holds that the above is true even if both races are exposed to the same social, economic, and political conditions. By implication, it means that black people are of a race inferior to the whites. Also, by extension, the ideology is backed by the belief that black people should be developed by the gradual loss of their black genes through marriages to whites and birthing children who, based on their whiter skin, will be closer to the white construct and standard. Initially, the usage of the word whitening in Argentina was little about color and more about overall attitude and cultural behavior. It made no difference, however, because both interpretations implied led to the discriminative behavior exhibited by white Argentines towards people who were not white. Brushing aside the underlying issues of inequality and racial discrimination, the Argentinian government subtly believed and acted out this ideology. However subtly they may have acted, it is evident today that Argentina has been whitewashed.
Half-time?
For almost a decade, the Argentine War of Independence, which started in 1810, was fought, and in 1816, Argentina gained its independence from Spain. It is well within the realm of possibilities that black men who were at the time still slaves would have been forced into the battlefront and became the greater casualty. Notable among these slave soldiers was Maria Remedios de Val, who fought in the Argentine Independence War along with her husband and sons. Originally, one of the popular answers as to how blacks were erased from Argentine history is the idea that these 18th century wars claimed the lives of many black men who represented the larger part of the black population. Admittedly, black lives were lost in the many wars that happened in Argentina. However, to claim these events solely account for the disappearance of blacks in Argentina is simply an exaggeration, because after the abolishment of slavery in 1853, the black population still made up about 1/3 of the population. It is unlikely, therefore, that the wars were responsible for the drastic...
So for those who don't know, they said that they hired a lot of black people to fight on the front line in wars, and this was part of the strategy of how to kill many black people. But what they're saying is, despite them doing that, after the war, there still was 1/3, which is quite a lot to be honest. So something else must have had to be done.
fall in the black population after the
So what we're doing for those joining, what we're doing, we're trying to we're doing part 2. Can knowledge of racial whitening be used to motivate black love? And what I'm trying to do is connect the dots, as shown historically there has been a considerate effort to make black people not be with black people, and this is an economic and biological kind of strategy to erase blackness or black people. And I'm saying, is there a chance of being aware of this? Black people might try to create a counter plan of how to improve wherever we find black people, the African descendants, the black people. Can knowing that the consistency of this plan that is very efficient, and we could argue is working today, could knowledge of it make black people work differently towards each other, knowing that a lot of the challenges we see in our community actually has been engineered. The reason why engineering is very important, I tried to show you some videos, clips of what's happened, whatever, is because sometimes in order to fix things, you need to engineer them yourselves. You need to have systems, you need to have lifestyles, you need to have consistencies, you see. So this is a thought process. Let's just for a few more minutes, then we'll cut off.
1800s. Such exaggerated detail should be expected when historical accounts have been altered and consequently are not trustworthy. Indeed, this exaggerated version is what some believe to be true as to how the black population faded out in Argentina. Very little is known about the state of the black population in Buenos Aires and Argentina after the wars. So poorly considered were the blacks that it appeared the government thought them too insignificant to be included in the national census. Was the black population that low, or were black people just neglected? Perhaps this was the initiating act of what later became racial profiling. At any rate, if the black population really died out due to the wars, though this claim is unsupported by statistics, it is even greater evidence of Argentina's cruel intent and effort to whiten its history. After all, murder is in one's heart before it is in the hand.
Probably pause it there. Yeah, it goes on. It goes on for about 5 minutes with other thing. If you wish to hear it, by all means, I can keep playing it. But we're joined here today by brother IC3. Welcome, brother. And we are talking about, do black people long to be subservient to non-black people, as well as can knowledge of racial whitening be used to motivate black love? So those are the two questions, and we've just looked at a video. I've also got two other videos that might be a bit too strong. It was what happened to the enslaved black people, like what were enslaved black people, like the top 10 worst things or something like this. But I probably won't play it to us. But let me go back to the what's the button again? Oh, it's that one. Ta-da! Yeah. Well, now, was there anything else I added in here that we covered last week? I can't remember. Let me see. I can remember anything. Oh yeah. So something I was going to go over as well is the because obviously I'm very sincere about this. Big up Empress Kushti, very important contributor to the show. One thing we were talking about is because obviously the question we're asking is, black people unfortunately have been systematically targeted for erasure, and this is the erasure of economics, culture, and existence historically, and we see a legacy of that today. Now, I'm not here to say that that's still going on, or maybe I am, but definitely the legacy of that seems to be still with us today. And the problem you have to fix is when you realize that you have a dedicated assault on blackness and black people, you try to tell people, but then what happens is, because of the history of colonization, racism, all the other isms, you tend to find that black people are mentally divided. That's right. I mean, the ideologies that we practice doesn't synchronize with each other. And sometimes they have a hierarchy of ideas in their brain that minimizes or limits them to do anything constructive for black people. So one of the challenges was the concept of religion. And this was one of the challenges when I first came on the scene. I had to try to have a way of dealing with that issue. And the solution was the black Betterment, as in a lifestyle. And if we could break that down with this diagram to make it make more sense to the onlookers, we say that if we can imagine you're a human, and we say a human is also a smartphone, right, or a PC, but we say a smartphone. It's an analogy, right? Now, many humans, not all, but many, tend to have religion, and that religion kind of guides everything they do. And some people use this religion, or other people use their religion to undermine blackness, or to undermine black people doing anything for black people. And if anything tries to compete with that religion, then they disregard it, you see, because it's already been installed, from the get-go, and it controls every single facet of their life. So we didn't say that from the analogy of a smartphone, that sounds like an operating system. You see, so with smartphones, you might have a Apple or a Android or a Windows, you see, as your operating system. And it pretty much, it functions all the things your phone does for what you want to do. So we were saying that Black Betterment is actually a app on the operating system, an application, a lifestyle. So that way we can say that regardless of what religion you have or don't have, you still have the capacity to actually have a lifestyle that's dedicated to Black Betterment. And that's where the analogy of person, religion, and lifestyle comes from. And hopefully that might be a helpful way when you go out in the world and you try to get black people synchronized. You can use some of these analogies to explain that. No, you can. There are ways for you to have religions and whatever they might be, and still help black people. Sometimes it becomes challenging, and obviously some people might use someone's religion to condition them to never help black people. See, that might be the thing. So just keep it in mind. That might be what you come across. Let me see what else you have at the bottom. I swear I put some new stuff on there. Let's see if I did. Oh yes, last week. Go ahead, my friend.
I like to explore this analogy of the app.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Go on.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the app, as in the telephone, and applying like software or the one operating system for the individual, could be, as you're saying, is like the religion, and that's operates their lifestyle, because it's the app. Their religion is their app. So I'm thinking ahead now about this the application of Black Betterment, your principle of Black Betterment, not only to the individual but to a community or to an organization. So you can register an organization. So how would that app apply to how would the regulation, you see, because you have regulatory bodies. So how is there a separate regulatory organization that investigate the standards of apps? If somebody is there national? So does the British government say, okay, the iPhone app is acceptable within this country, or the Microsoft app, or do the British government have any say in it, or is it a transnational, international organization that just does what it wants?
It depends. So if we stay within the app world as an actual app, what happens is you make your app to be able to work on the operating system. You see, so if you have a phone that's got Apple installed, the developers make the app so that it's compatible to work. Now, with Apple is very strict. Before they allow any app to work on it, you have to get permission from them. You see, so that in the app world, that's how it works. Now, in the real world, the lifestyle that we're forging shouldn't really conflict with the moralistic judgments of a religious person. They should still be able to practice their religion, but also practice Black Betterment. That's the challenge.
Hold it. So let's push the analogy to its limit. So let's go parallel juxtaposition.
Yeah.
So Apple, you say they make the telephone, and
Yeah.
then they allow software developers, or they give license to software developers to write apps for the mobile phone. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the phone is there, and then the operating system.
So who's the phone? Who's the phone owner or manufacturer? Apple, correct?
Well, here's the thing. In the analogy, a person is a phone. Yeah, so that phone can make
Yeah.
it technically. You can put a operating system, Apple operating system on what's it, a HTC phone, right? There's ways you can do it, as in like your operating system could be put on anything, right? So that analogy is, if you imagine a iPhone is a black person and a ITC or whatever is a white person, and then now the next step is the religion. Well, that is the operating system. So once again, it's that kind of jumble. Which one you're going to pick, right? So what we're saying is, regardless of what operating system you use, this app, and the app I will give examples might be WhatsApp or Google search. I think it's Google, right? That will work on any operating system and any phone because it's made that way. So the idea is the lifestyle will work on any religion or any person who practices religion, because we make it that way that it shouldn't.
Right. So Black Betterment Lifestyle is like the equivalent of Google.
It is, yeah, Google or WhatsApp, depending on which one's more popular at the time, right?
Right.
But
Okay.
if we use Google as a perfect example, some people actually use Google technically more consciously than they use Windows. So obviously you turn on Windows and it's just there, right? But the first thing they do is they go into Google, and their entire existence is now on Google. So even though they use an operating system to open up the app and open up the browser, but once the funny thing is the browser is Google. So once they open up Windows, they click on a browser called Google, and that browser has everything done for them. So it's got the search engine, it's got the email, it's got the map find, it's got all the things. So even though they have, and this could work whether they've got Windows operating system, Apple operating system, or Android operating system.
Right. Oh, so what you're saying is then, you're saying is to apply it to people is that black people have been conditioned with the system of white supremacy. So it's like the operating system, like Windows. Yeah. So it's powerful. It's popular. White supremacy. Everybody's using it, and you're yeah. So all black people are conditioned within that system, and they're in that operating system. The institutional racism is the equivalent of Microsoft Windows. Yeah. And then you're saying Google, they can click on Google, and before you know it, they've left the operating system of Microsoft Windows because it's just in the background, and they're doing the emails and doing everything from Google.
Yeah.
And so
you could say that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it that way, but you could say that. I would say that the operating system is there and it's not being tampered with, but the person isn't using it. They actually
Right. So you're saying that this Black Betterment could operate a bit like Google, where even though people are still stuck within the system of white supremacy, and they're having to do their job and live life within the system, somehow they can choose the Black Betterment operating system.
Yeah.
And just stop using. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but so it could be any religion, and we understand that white supremacy is religion. So yeah, whatever religion has occupied the mind of the black person, rightly or wrongly, they can still practice the lifestyle of Black Betterment.
Right.
It's the application, it's not operating system. Although, one would argue that at a certain point, if you never had the operating system, then part of the upscalement of the lifestyle is it could replace that. But that's just something, that's another discussion. Because
and Google Phone, you mean like Google Phone?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like, because what's happening with a lot of these apps is they're just like the phone, they're doing all things in one, right? So and Google definitely is doing more than one thing. It's trying to do every single thing, but it just lands on someone's platform. So it's compatible with any platform out there, whether you use Windows, Android. So this was the solution I had when it came to talking in public with religious people who will just disconnect and go, no, my religion, I can't help black people. No, it's no. I've got my religion. You know, I'm good. That's once religion, it tells me everything, whatever. And I said, well, if your religion doesn't, saying your religion does everything, but recognizing black people need help and we're not tackling it, then we need to actually come to a solution of how do black people help black people if we're not discussing it. You see, and so that's how it all came about.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah. So the concept was born out of the situations and discussions within Speaker's Corner.
And but even the wider world, like this, observing people use religions as a method to not do any kind of betterment work in the community.
Right.
So that's where it came from.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, it's once again, a lot of this is talking tactics, like methods and symbolic ways to not have black people waste time when they're trying to promote something, because that like time wasting is a strategy, and sometimes you might want to go out and the first thing they say is, oh yes, but my religion this. You go, okay, not to worry, have your religion. This works within your religion, rather than trying to unpack it and say, well, you need to leave your religion to do this, or
right.
Because we know that those kind of talks cause tremendous anxiety, especially for the everyday person. So we find ways to negate that, to go straight to the source, and that is the lifestyle app.
Right.
All that makes sense. So, family who are tuning in now, this is the Betterment Broadcast. We are going to probably shut down soonish. We showed some videos. If anyone wants to jump in, feel free to jump in now. But we were talking about what were we talking about? We were talking about there we go. Let's go straight to that thing. We were talking about, do black people long to be subservient to non-black people? We showed videos of this sister here. Let's see her. Let's reverse. When the King of England came over, the campaign, she was very, very over the moon. You know that some people are, but what happened is she started crawling on her knees, and we thought that might not be appropriate to do that, really. And
you said might not be appropriate.
Well, I'm being kind of curious. It's not appropriate to be crawling your knees. It's not appropriate to crawl on your knees in front of anyone, really. Especially the King of England. Yeah, I don't think that's appropriate to do that. I don't know where that's been observed. And we also noticed that the non-black people weren't doing that, so I don't know where it was observed. But the reason why it's important is because we also then showed, I gave examples of the King's mother who passed away this year, and how she never acknowledged really slavery or reparations, and that was her being on code because she didn't want to have to face questions about reparations or questions that might, question money and finance of the royal family, this kind of stuff. So I'm saying that if the Queen can be a very nice speaker but stay on code, then I think until we have any kind of real meaningful conversations, black people shouldn't be groveling at the royal family's feet and cheering like a rock star. I don't think that's appropriate behavior. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people think that's what you should be doing. Let us know in the comments if that's how black people should be reacting. And then we show the sister who went on to Fox Australian News to undermine her sister Fulani, the woman who was racially abused verbally at some kind of royal family party get-together shindig. And we were shown that the technique of how many white institutions, European shows and stuff will always try to hire a black person to undermine black people. And this technique was very important because the sister Fulani is a Caribbean from Barbados, I believe, who changed her name to an African name to be more connected and embraced African culture and found a way to take pieces of many different ideas from Africa to piece something unique for herself, which many black people do, Pan-Africans do. But they found the African sister to go on TV and undermine all this. And we're saying this is part of the plan. We recognize it. Definitely unsynchronized off-code behavior. But this could be seen as another form of subservience to non-black people. So then it tackles a bigger question. if we had more institutions, this might minimize to have black people to go on foreign stations to undermine black people because we can actually pay them to talk constructively. But that's just a bigger idea. We're pushing forward. And then, brother, IC3 we're talking about a star system of how to potentially rate buildings and institutions by the merit they do. We think, could we invent a star system to say what kind of work they do, or if they're black owned and they hire black people, this kind of stuff. And then we also went on to we started last week. How do you acknowledge racial whitening? No, how can knowledge of racial whitening be used to motivate black love? And we showed a film from Australia. Well, it was based on Australia in the 1930s, of where they had a plan how to destroy Aborigines by having them have sex relations with Europeans and have what they call half-caste children. Then half-caste children then do the same process, and then they have quadroon children, and then one more octoroon. And the same between octoroon and the next stage is where we can start accepting them as white children, and we have to promote this. And we're saying that this behavior we've seen, and we showed Argentina where it was also present in Argentina until today. There is no more. They say there's no more black Argentinians. And the reason we're showing this isn't because it's some jolly thing we want to know. It's more so, can awareness of this behavioral pattern motivate black people to actually practice black betterment? And more particularly from the black institution side as well as the black love side, as in seeing a value in being with black women, having a black family, knowing that you're going to create a black family to inherit the black institution that you're making. As black people, is this something that's important? And maybe that's the question we have to ask. We need to go onto certain shows and go, is this important? Maybe it's not. Maybe being subservient actually is a good idea. Maybe black people either, because remember, you have to look at the two strategies. We're going to also unpack the Arab strategy and historically. So I'm writing down the Negro problem, because it seems that whenever people of African descent were enslaved, there was always a problem of the lineage and the legacy and the people group. And then you had the Arabs, the Arabs had one technique. You had the Europeans of Anglo and French, that kind of style. They had one technique. And then you had like the Spanish, Portuguese, they had one technique. And then there was maybe some nuances between them. So, with the Arabs, they had a technique of castrating black men so they couldn't have children, and impregnating black women, but then training the offspring to say you're actually Arab, you're not, you're from this culture. And then what you would first tell the woman that if her children and her accepted Islam, the children wouldn't be born into slavery, and this caused a division between the mother and the children, and then the children would then be obviously go on to then marry more into Arab, and then that kind of stuff. So that was the Arab way of dealing with it. The European is what we're showed about the two techniques that from the European of the English European. To an extent, there's divisions, but one was the racial whitening, where you encourage the black people to marry white people, so they give up all their rights and they become white. If you look at the Americas, the technique they used was to completely segregate black people, but also whenever black people got any kind of economic structure, like Black Wall Street, like bomb it and this kind of stuff. So that was their method. Looking at these methods of how black people mistreat, and this is why when we start the show, we say historically, collectively, black people have no friends. Now the idea is to have these conversations with constructive black people, and figure out, is there enough of a number of people out there who want to actually reverse the legacy of some of these problems. And some black people might say, what is a problem? Where, if we push forward that, well, actually, do we see any institutions? Do we have any control of any kind of initiatives? When horrible things happen to black people, do we have to go to others for protection? Can we not protect ourselves? Do we see this behavior in other community groups, i.e. Jewish, Chinese, and the rest of it? And I'm saying, if we see a pattern here and we accept that black people are collectively inadequate, will that motivate black people to fix all these issues at once, have a philosophy? Now, what I'm trying to do for you brothers and sisters here is try to form a lifestyle that does that automatically in the tin. As soon as you open that tin, it's like everything's fixed. It's like there's a solution to all of that. What's the issue to a racial whitening? Black love. Okay, what's the issue to the lack of economics? Black economics. Yeah. You know, well, how do you do it? Well, construct a black man, construct a black woman. How do you start economic group? Well, we're talking about having a star system. So, you know, we can demonstrate to the people we've ticked these boxes and we're here to benefit the black community. So this is the question. It's like, but maybe there is a chance that maybe black people can't. This is the thing. Like, and this is the deep question I have. Maybe we're not ready, or maybe we're not good enough. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe the back-to-back effects of either racial whitening, segregation, economic genocide, castration. Maybe all these things have actually permanently made the black collective group as a underclass that can never really get above a certain point. And maybe the solution is racial whitening. Maybe to not exist anymore in the form we identify as black people. Maybe everyone should be seeking to become white. I don't know. I disagree. I don't think that is the best solution. But maybe many black people think this way. And if you do, it'll be good to hear from you. Or to see narratives where they think that might be. Because we have to have a logical reason why black people are not doing these things. If we acknowledge that these things are beneficial to black people. Very deep questions there, family. But that's what we have in the Betterment Broadcast. We try to start those kind of topics. And I will be moving more so on Clubhouse in the future. And hopefully we'll get some new people from Clubhouse. But no doubt this will be a topic I will be starting on Clubhouse. You know, how can knowledge of racial whitening be used to motivate black love? Well, there you go. So, family, we've reached. I don't know. We got. Well, we kind of got maybe 15 minutes or so, but we will cut because we will enjoy one. We definitely appreciate Brother IC3. But if no one else is going to jump in, I think the link's in the group, family. We will call it there because I've got some engineering to do. But unless Brother IC3 has anything he wants to unpack, we will call it quits. Let me know, Brother IC3.
No, I just look forward to further discussions on applying the Black Betterment star grade code to business. You know, you can start earning some money from that if you like.
There you go. So I'm going to write a note down that when I do that to invite Brother IC3. And I don't know, do you use Clubhouse, Brother IC3? Not really?
No, I don't use Clubhouse. No.
It might be an interesting one for you to get into. I'm trying to set up a more constructive way of using the app. It's got far reach and there's many people there seeking certain things. It might be worth you experimenting on there. I know some of the brothers here, but if you have an Android,
I bet you that if you set up an institution that a Black Betterment grading institution for business. Right, that would be a brilliant subject to discuss. You see, that would generate, that would make Clubhouse should serve the project, not not trying to go into project, not trying to go into Clubhouse to try and Clubhouse is just Clubhouse, but what are they talking about? So if you're doing something in the real world, as in setting up an organization that grades companies, then that's a topic people will say, well, how they'll be talking about that in Clubhouse. That'll give them something to talk about, something worthwhile.
There you go.
Because it's going to impact everybody. Because you can start, you'll judge, you can go anywhere. You're just like the Standards Commission, Government Standards Commission, inspectors, food inspectors. Your Black Betterment inspectors. That's exciting. Just get into Clubhouse because there's loads of people there. It just doesn't spark me. I'm not interested really. It's not just loads of people and trying to get the crowd to listen. It's not interesting. I prefer to do something and then I generate the news. You talk about what I'm doing because I'm doing something. I'm not.
No, you're right.
That's
I think more so the function of how it operates, when you as an admin have control of who you let up and who you let speak in, that methodology might be good. But definitely having a purpose of what you're going to start when you go there is very, very, very true and very good. And that is definitely what
if you open a section on Clubhouse, that is a department of the inspectors, of Black Betterment inspectors. That's interesting now. Now I'll be interested in going to Clubhouse, but just going to Clubhouse to talk about various subjects, but a bit like what you're doing here. It's not, if there's something there, and then people can come and discuss articles about the different places that have been graded, and do they agree with the grading, or you use Clubhouse to do the grading. You can say, right, this is the Black Betterment Clubhouse, and we want you to vote on this restaurant and say what you think about it, and then you write it here and talk about it on Clubhouse, you know, and then you're taking information from the people. So we're using Clubhouse as a survey system to grade, you know, to grade organizations. You know, and then you've got 1,000 people, 2,000 people on Clubhouse say this restaurant is really great, and we believe it should be moved up from Yellow Star to Brown Star. And then there's a whole discussion about, well, why should it be moved up from Yellow Star to Brown Star, and what a Brown Star, and why should this restaurant that's on a Brown Star be moved down to Yellow Star, you know, or down to White Star? Or you could say, well, because it started off as a black organization, but now it's been taken off, they're sold out. So it was a black organization. So it was Black Star, and now it's dropped out completely. And then we can discuss what happened. And people like to hear the gossip. Oh, well, so and so got divorced from his wife, and blah 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 and blah 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 blah. You know, that's generating good conversation towards something practical.
Excellent. So what we're going to do, thank you for that, brother. What we're going to do is we're going to play the last 3 minutes of the Argentinian, I guess, whitewash, and then we're going to end the show. So the last 3 minutes, and then we're going to go. So let's have a sneak peek before we go.
Resulting from the loss of black lives in the wars, the number of black men who represented the larger part of the black population was greatly reduced. Accordingly, women became the larger part, and as a result, what was once a fairly balanced ratio of women to men had become disproportionate. This, amongst other things, facilitated the rise of interracial marriages in Argentina. Since the number of black men was on the decrease, black women were left with two choices: get married to Argentine men or contest for the few African men who were left. Some chose, if that would be considered a choice, the latter. What is strange are the conclusions that were drawn from this choice. Some have concluded that blacks wanted a place where they belonged. So, after the abolishment of slavery, many of them migrated from Argentina to nearby countries with more predominant acceptance of black people, such as Brazil. Apparently, this conclusion was arrived at because some families were in fact purely black. However,
So there's one thing you have to hear. What they're saying is a lot of people, some people might have left Argentina because the treatment of black people are great elsewhere, and when you have to go to Brazil at that time to get treated better, then you know it must be very terrible. But also, more so, what they were observing was there actually were black families there, meaning a black man married a black woman, and that was something you were seeing less of, if at all, in Argentina at that time.
This theory is unsatisfactory and insufficient on its own to explain how the black population completely fizzled out of the history of Argentina. Even if it's true, is migrating out of a country tantamount to migrating out of the country's history? Well, this scheme believes so.
Last part now? Maybe.
Arguably, one of the most subtle acts taken by the Argentine government to wash its history of blackness was a call for European immigrants. This is a fact attested to by statistics which link 2/3 of the population of Argentina to European immigration. In the 19th century, following the series of wars, Argentina made the call for immigrants from Europe, probably due to the low population of the country that had resulted from the loss of lives in the wars. In 1853, the constitution currently in use by Argentina was approved. Though it had seen the abolishment of slavery, the 25th article of the constitution was that which officially facilitated immigration into Argentina without any form of barrier. This limitless access into the country is rightly perceived to be suspicious. Whether at that point, Argentina had intended that the European immigration be used as a means to whitewash its history as it was already nearing that point, it eventually did. With more European immigrants in Argentina, the prospects for a whiter country were raised. At last, there were more white people to dilute the growing black population, and gradually, a new mixed race was created. However, racial profiling would be unavoidable in a country that prides itself deeply on its European heritage, and such was the case in Argentina. The new generation of people born through interracial marriages was referred to as the non-whites, a superficial term that embodied the government's denial of racial diversity, which was present in Argentina. If placed on a ranking system, non-whites would be a little higher than pure blacks and whites higher than both. In this way, Argentina set the stage for the commencement of its whitening, with interracial marriages particularly functioning as the whitening cream. One can understand why some blacks sought interracial marriages to climb up the social ladder. What other alternative existed in the face of discrimination? Amongst other lack of rights, black people could not attend universities before the abolition of the slavery in 1853. White children had a longer number of schooling years than black children, and black people had no access to healthcare due to their poor economic and financial state. The rate of infant mortality was higher for black children when compared to whites. The black community lost a higher percentage of its population to cholera and the yellow fever epidemic, which broke out in the years 1864 and 1871 respectively. These health challenges were partly responsible for the disappearance of the black community in Argentina. In like fashion, children with mixed parents of whites and non-whites were seen to have become somewhat whiter, as evident in their lighter skin tone, and could enjoy rights exclusive to the whites. Thus, their social status and that of their descent were raised with a lesser chance of being discriminated against. At this point, black women had two options: become whiter and access more rights, or continue to be black and suffer discrimination. That was not the first or the last time they would face this alternative, and their choice was always the same. The bait had been designed so cleverly by the Argentine government that anyone would bite. Accompanied with the whitening was a loss in black identity, not just in genetic makeup and skin color, but in consciousness also. That 90% of the people in Argentina today identify to be white is proof that many Argentines are ignorant of their ancestry, so much so that they can't tell if they are indeed white or are descended from Afro-Argentines.
That's it, is that it? Let's check.
The marked racial discrimination that has fed Argentina's erasure of its black history is astounding, and it has caused multiple reverberations for generations. While the lives of black people were lost, the black consciousness and black accounts were also lost to history. In recent times, sequel to the re-emergence of the black community in the 20th century, Afro-Argentines continue to fight to bring back and keep the black account in Argentine history by telling their stories. A memorable feat was achieved when November 8 was assigned by the Argentine legislation to celebrate Maria Remedios de Val, the Afro-Argentine soldier who fought for Argentina during the Argentine War of Independence in the 1810s. Since 2013, November 8, officially referred to as the National Day of Afro-Argentines and African Culture, has served as a day when Argentina revisits and celebrates its African roots. Still, the question of whether Argentina is truly a white country or not persists. This question does not fit into a black or white structure, but one thing is certain: white Argentina will find it very hard to completely get rid of the black footprints in its archives, which is a good thing, especially for the Afro-Argentines who have been denied a substantial part of their ancestral history.
All right, thank you very much. All right, family. That's the end of the Betterment Broadcast. Check you next week. Remember, we always end the show by saying Black Betterment. So, Black Betterment.
Black Betterment. See you next time.
See you next time. All right.